Hello, welcome to Sustainable Solutions with Planet Aid, the podcast that explores sustainable solutions for the most pressing issues facing our planets and communities today. I'm Planet Aid's Communications Manager, Haley Chitty, and I'm going to turn it over to our host, Planet Aid's Communication and Content Specialist, Monica Johnson. I'll jump back in later to ask a few follow-up questions. Monica, take it away.
Thank you, Haley, and welcome to Sustainable Solutions with Planet Aid. I am Monica Johnson, and I'm going to be your guide for this journey as we take challenging situations and try to simplify them. And it's also your opportunity to learn from incredible individuals and organizations at the forefront of developing and implementing sustainable solutions. Change is not only possible, but it is essential, and it begins with understanding. So today we have a special treat. Today we are going to be talking to Nancy J. Zavada, founder and president of MeetGreen, which is an international green event planning company. So welcome, Nancy. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to talk to this audience.
Well, tell us a little bit. We want to get to know you a little bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how, MeetGreen came about.
Sure. I started MeetGreen in 1994, and I worked mostly with large technical computer conferences by academics with between 2,500 and 3,000 in attendance, usually for a week long.
Wow.
And I really realized how important sustainability is in that, and how much waste, what a big impact we could have. So I really drove my company that way, as well as I started the Green Meeting Industry Council in 2004, which is a resource set up to help people along the way.
Very good. And as you've mentioned, also MeetGreen is an international sustainable event planning company. So could you explain what that means and how it's relevant to businesses and organizations?
Sure. The meetings industry is really large. Just in 2024, they had $127 billion spent on travel to meetings alone.
Wow.
So it's a huge industry, and there's a lot of waste.
Mm-hmm.
It's also an international problem, as you know. Like this year, we're going to be going to Denmark, Japan, Brazil, Singapore, Colombia, and London, and assisting with their sustainability at events as well. So what really got me started thinking about this and the breadth of this really is I was planning a meeting for one of those tech conferences, and we went to a city, and the city said, we only have styrofoam cups and plates. This is back in 94. I said, well, I can't serve styrofoam. My biggest no-no to start with was styrofoam cups, so I can't do that. They said, well, you're going to have to bring in your own. So I went back, researched, thought that paper would be better because they didn't have reusable plates and cups for that many people. And I did the math for 2,500 people for 5 days. That was 37,500 plates and cups just for that week alone. And I thought, look, I'm one meeting planner here in this city. Look at our impact. What can we do as a group? So I went back and started not only still doing my work, but training other meeting planners in how to do this process and really enrolling them as champions.
So what did you settle on when you were doing those meetings? Because you didn't do the styrofoam, and how did you go ahead and be effective in that meeting space?
In that meeting space, we brought in paper products.
Okay, so the paper products. Okay,
that was a bit. This isn't 100%. It's never going to be, but it's small steps along the way. So that was a better solution. I mean, now we really push for no disposables at all, and expect the facility to have enough reusable plates and cups to be able to furnish our people.
Right, and I love that you said that it's not perfect, because it's a work in progress.
It is. And we're not 100%, and I've been doing it 30 years, so it's
and it's such a high expectation, because people say 0 what do they call those, the zero waste events? And it probably is a fallacy or a hope, but as long as you try to get as close to as you can, I think that's the hope. So if
Right.
companies aren't thinking about eco-friendly or zero waste events, what are they missing? What are the benefits to these kinds of events?
They're missing so much. They're missing economic savings. They're missing environmental savings. Take a look at their attendees. I mean, that's what drove me to this as well, is my demographics of my attendees at those first conferences. They're concerned about it. They're worried about the environment. So they want to do better. So there's the risk management of not being a good corporate citizen. There's the savings. There's really serving as a leader in their industry. It looks good when they're doing that. It only takes one, in social media now, it only takes one plastic water bottle up on a podium or one extravagant buffet that isn't eaten at the end and pictures of it to go on and be viral for people who are really trying to do good, but they've got to follow through all the way to their events.
And I love that you actually help people out on your website, because you have a sustainable event kit. You have a food calculator. You have a glossary of different terms. So, I mean, if people just go to meetgreen.com, they are, I feel like they're
right?
halfway way done. So
They are.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about like why you wanted that website to be the way it is. It's such, I mean, I'm looking at it, it's so very helpful.
We really want to give back to the community. We're doing our good work. We're doing our good work with nonprofits as well as large corporate events. But we want to be a resource. The Green Media Industry Council is now part of the Events Industry Council, so it's not a bit playing as big a role. So we're taking on that role to really help people along the way, give them the checklists, the ideas, the challenges. Our blog talks about the things that work and don't work. So that's really important to us, is to give back to our community.
What would you say to those who worry about, like, oh, I'm just, so uptight about doing a green event, it's going to be a logistical nightmare? What would you say to people who kind of have that whole mindset of worry?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that, because that does come up all the time. What you're doing, though, is you're doing the same things that you do as a meeting planner. You're just adding on maybe some questions, maybe a few steps. So we all have to find a place to hold our meetings. So you're sending out an RFP saying, can you hold it, rates, dates, will this work? But then you're also asking them other questions about their site, about their venue. And in that, you are making sure that you are going to a sustainable place. And that's the big piece. If you can get that, you're going to have a much better event. But you do that all the way along with everything. So when you're negotiating a contract, negotiate that in. When you're doing food and beverage ordering, you're talking to the chef. What's the best thing that you can serve? What is the lowest carbon impact? Is there a way to do it so that you don't have a lot of food and beverage overrun? You just do it all the way along, including right up to the very end, right after it's over, and you talk about what your wins are, and you make sure to share those with key stakeholders. So you can tell them what the economic savings are, what the environmental savings are, but it's not an extra step. It may be a few things during that, but it's not extra work.
Very good. That's good to know. I'm sure that puts someone to ease. Tell us about the areas that you work in. For instance, what are some of the innovative disposal strategies that you have implemented at events?
Well, probably the most innovative disposable strategy is not buying it, reducing. Reducing what you're buying. You don't have to dispose of it if you don't have it sitting around after an event, right?
That's true.
So let's take swag, for instance, where you arrive at an event and you get a t-shirt and you get a bag, and what are you going to do? Does everybody want one? Is everybody going to use them? Think about the cost of the bag and the t-shirt, and then having it shipped, then having someone handle it on site, and handing it out, and then shipping whatever's left back or disposing of whatever's left. Do you really need that? Does everybody still need a t-shirt and a tote bag? I mean, we have enough grocery bags to go around, I think. So we either ask on the registration form, do you really want this? Or we just don't provide them. Most people have backpacks and things they carry, briefcases. So there's really not a big reason to have them.
I love that, because you're saying that, like, at registration, when you're registering for the event, do you want this?
Yes.
Is it necessary? I also noticed on your website that you do surveys, so that's
Yes.
probably part of that whole
Absolutely.
aspect. How does MeetGreen approach food rescue? What impacts has it had on reducing food waste at events?
Yeah, food waste is the latest big thing
Yeah.
in sustainability. So, not to sound like a broken record, but reduce.
Mm-hmm.
Just reduce first. So, look at your history. You should know your history of your event. How many people say that they're going to show up to an event on Thursday and then don't?
Mm-hmm.
Or, what's your attrition there? And so you know your numbers. So you only order what you know are actually going to show up. If you're having a buffet, you don't have 15 items on the buffet, you have 5. And then you can keep that replenished really easily and not have extra food waste. You also tell your people, remind them that the first one through a buffet doesn't have to look like the last one through a buffet, right? You're going to get food, but it may not look exactly like it did for the very first person. But there's food. You're fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to educate people. We also do a little thing called the Clean Plate Club, as for a little peer pressure, is after you're through with your meal, then you go to a station, like a scraping station, to turn your plate in. And if
Mm-hmm.
your plate is empty, you get a sticker or a button or something else. And then you kind of start collecting them as the week goes along. And people are watching for it then. Are you a member of the Clean Plate Club? My dad used to do this. This is not new, but we need to be reminded that everything isn't extravagant every time you go to an event.
I love that point, because that's where we are today, I guess, even in the United States, about consumerism and just over consuming. So,
Yes.
and that's a huge point that I don't think is made enough, because it's about changing habits and not just
Right.
looking to organizations to do it, but individually changing habits.
I mean, you look at hospitality,
Mhm.
the definition of hospitality used to just be elegant, extravagant,
Mhm.
everything. And that's not the case anymore. People get upset when they see a lot of food waste.
Hmm.
And that's important that that's happening in the world.
It's
Great.
interesting also because, there are some people who come from the mindset of better to have more than
Sure.
to have less. So how do you kind of re-educate that mindset?
Well, that's where you work, early on in the registration and in the things that you send out to your attendees. You just really keep with the education of, this is what we're doing on your behalf. This is what is important to this organization. So this is how it's going to look. It's still going to be fabulous, wonderful, but it's not going to be, some people may not even notice, but it's not going to be ridiculous and out of control. And people appreciate that now.
Mm-hmm. So something that many people do not think of is energy efficiency at events, and especially like event planners. Can you share the methods used to enhance energy efficiency during events? Because a lot of times that kind of thing it could be out of your hands because it's a venue.
It is out of our hands. So
Mm-hmm.
what is in our hands is back to the request for proposal and the survey. Do they have energy efficient lighting in meeting rooms and sleeping rooms? Do they have renewable energy? Is it possible, if they don't have it there then, is it possible to get renewable energy to their venue?
What does that look like as far as like the renewable energy that people should be looking for?
Well, the venue will be able to tell you if they have renewable energy
Mm-hmm.
in that city or in that venue,
Mm-hmm.
what it's driven by, how much of a percentage, if not 100%. So that's going in the building. The attendees never know.
Okay. Okay. Very good.
It
Very good.
doesn't show for them. The
Mm-hmm.
only kind of things that you can really do when you're at a venue that you have control over is like turning off the lights when you leave the room, those kinds of things.
Right.
But you're not in control of the energy efficiency, besides to make sure that they have it. Do they have a LEED certification? Is there any way to prove how efficient they are?
Very good. Okay, good. And how does MeetGreen incorporate responsible transportation options in event planning? Now, I really didn't even think about that too much, but that is more increasingly part of that part of the responsibility of event planners. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is.
Mm-hmm.
And the most responsible way to do it is to meet virtually.
Wow.
No transportation at all. Look at during the pandemic, we all did just fine, and we all got to stay in our homes, go to our kids' soccer games at night, not be traveling. And for those with socioeconomic conditions that don't let them pay the high airline and the fees, there's communities that have very little services. There's accessibility issues many times. So for people who don't find it easy to travel, so that's the best is to have it virtually. But without that, or maybe even a hybrid, partly virtual. But without that, being able to do that, you have to look for, first of all, is the venue within walkable distance to other things, to restaurants, to shops, so people don't have to take transportation? Is there mass transit to the airport? Is there, can you run shuttles and take a larger group of people? And in some cities, the city will even give you metro passes so that you can get around the city without having to take a cab or rent a car. And they do that for free as part of the conference.
And I love that you talked about the remote or the hybrid, because I didn't even really think about that being a sustainable option, but it really is, because not everybody is looking to go travel. They're just fine with watching these things on their computers and their laptops or whatever. So how does that, what are numbers for that? And if you don't know them, that's fine. You probably don't know them off the top of your head, but how does that really help an organization as far as when they're looking to reduce their numbers as far as sustainability?
Reduce the economic impact?
Right, their economic impact, and also I imagine it helps with every portion of it. It helps with energy efficiency, it helps with food waste, all of those kinds of things. So what's the selling point for that?
There's no food. You're not renting a building. You're not having people travel. You're not buying swag. You're not doing any of those things. You're just having a platform like this one to have people come on and watch and learn. And there's there's new ways to give feedback. There's surveys. There's one-on-ones. There's all sorts of things you can do now on video that you didn't used to be able to do. But it's great for that. It's kind of controversial in the meetings industry because people like to sell their airline tickets and their hotel rooms and that type of thing. But you've also got to think about what is the mission of that event. If it's for networking and everybody needs to shake hands and have group engagement, then that's fine. Then hold an in-person meeting. But if this meeting really is education or furthering research, and you don't need to have the other side benefit of the networking, then people can log on whenever they want to watch, or they can watch live during the event, but they don't need to travel to do that.
So mission is really important making these events or planning these events.
Yes, absolutely. Always look for the mission of the host organization. What are they up for? That gives you a lot of clues. Like, is it water efficiency that they're worried about? I mean, what is that organization up for? And what can be the hallmark of this event?
Very good. Very good. How do you tailor sustainable practices to fit the unique needs of various events?
Everything's tailored. There's no two events that are like. We start with them and meet them where they are. Whether they're really elite or they're just starting out, it doesn't matter. We just meet them where they are, help them set a baseline, help them figure out what they're going to do this time, next time, how they're going to move it forward, and then how they're going to share it too. Because if you're doing all this great stuff and you're not sharing it with your key stakeholders, that's a huge loss. And also in the meetings industry, there's so many publications that really want stories that, you can publish those all day long.
Very good. Okay. That sounds like a very good gem for event planners. Can you provide an example of a successful event where customized sustainable practices were implemented? And I'm saying customized, but now you're saying pretty much everything is going to be customized. But can you give me an example of that?
Sure, we do. Right now, this week we're at Clean Med, which is a conference that is for the healthcare industry, and they're discussing different ways that hospitals can save. So we're working with them. We did a conference called Refed Food Waste Solutions, which does some great work with food. They take the kitchen scraps and they make them into soups, they make them into hors d'oeuvres, they make them into smoothies. They collect canned goods and then they build a structure out of the canned goods, like for a contest, and then later on they donate that to the local food bank. They have photographic exhibits of food waste solutions. There's just so many things that you can do.
Well, that sounds like a lot of stories to be submitted.
There's a lot. I got a lot of stories.
Okay. And how do you envision the role of sustainability in the events industry over the next decade or more? Where is it going?
In 30 years ago, I thought I was going to work myself out of a job within 5 years. And 30 years later, here I am, and we're still working on sustainability. But we're still working on sustainability, right? People said it was a trend. They said, I'm not going to, put my time or money into it. That's a trend. That's going to go away. It has not gone away. It hasn't gone away through pandemics. It hasn't gone away through economic downturns. I mean, it's gotten stronger, really stronger than ever. And I think it's going to continue to do that until we can really make some progress.
And I know that there are actually lists that people can get themselves on. Is that correct? Where they can be considered a sustainable venue. How would you tell someone to look at a particular list or go find a list that says that this event is, or this venue, or these companies are sustainable?
That's tougher. There's not really a list.
Okay.
But what we do is when we go to, because we go to different cities, when we go to the city, we ask the Convention Visitors Bureau, can you give me can you give me a list of venues? Can you give me a list of vendors? Can you tell me what's sustainable in your community? And that's really where you have to start.
Why isn't that a public kind of thing?
I think it's public, but I don't think
okay.
It's public, but there's just nobody started one. There's no money in building this list, right?
Okay.
So
I gotcha. Yeah. And so my last question before Haley jumps in, what advice would you give to other event planners looking to incorporate sustainable practices into their events? They're just getting started and want to find out, how do we dip our toe into this?
Sure. Don't be overwhelmed. because it can be overwhelming to go all the way to the complex. It's not going to be done in a day or 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
But pick something that's really important to you. Measure, and this is where it goes back to your company mission. Measure, put that policy in place. Work with the venue, work with the vendors, then measure it as a baseline. And then your next event, can you do better? This is what you've done. How can you push it a little farther? Or how can you take on something else? So if you did food waste the first time, and the next time you go into water conservation, or you go into shipping materials, just transportation, whatever category you go into, just keep adding to it. So start now. Start slow and just keep building on it.
Baby
That's
steps.
the hard part. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Your sustainability efforts need to be sustainable.
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
I'm just kind of curious, what's the largest event that you guys have done? I'm just kind of trying to get a sense of the scale.
Largest event we've done is 60,000 people in Las
Wow.
Vegas. The
In Las
smallest
Vegas.
is probably 250 people.
And can you talk a little bit about how the industry is progressing over these 30 years? I assume when you started, like you said, with the styrofoam cups, not a lot of options, probably more pricey. What would you tell people today in terms of how far they've come?
I think that the industry's done great. They don't have for a while plastic water bottles were their nemesis, and that they've not everywhere, but they're certainly weeding those out. People are bringing their own water bottles and their own mugs now, and that's a trend for them. But it's also served this community. People are really watching how they travel and making sure it's as sustainable as possible. They're looking for places to recycle. If they're standing there with something in their hands and on the show floor, they're looking for a place to recycle. So they make sure that there are, cans, bottles, all those things separated out because they're looking for it now, and they don't want to just put everything in the trash.
And I assume that the venues holding these events have come a long way as well. I assume when you're talking to them now, it's not something that they haven't heard of.
No, they have definitely heard of it. First of all, venues have done the water and energy efficiency because it saves them a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So they jumped on that right away. So that's been great. They may push back some on other things like food donation or what your requests are for sustainability, but the venues really have done a great job in switching over to a more sustainable venue. But then that's it's economic pushing that too.
Yeah, it really sounds like a win-win at the end of the day if you can kind of just get over the mental hurdle.
Yes.
And there's not many excuses today because the planners, the venues, and the organizations are all cognizant of these things. So it's encouraging to hear. And I'm just wondering, is there any areas that people might not think about that's ripe for sustainability in terms of their events? I think transportation was one I hadn't really thought of. Obviously water bottles and food, I think are pretty, but I don't know, name badges. And I was just at a conference and they had repurposed T-shirts. So the shirts that they gave out were actually, this was their second life, so to speak. And then they had the bags were old jeans that had been refashioned into sort of tote bag. And that was a nice way for them because the whole conference was about reusing textiles, obviously. So that was a nice way for them to make a statement. But I'm just wondering what other areas that people might not think about are there?
Sure. Let me stick with that area just for a minute, because one of the things I love that people are doing is they're taking those big banners and they're making them into messenger bags and backpacks plaques and things to give out at the next event,
Wow.
which is it's so cool to get one of those.
Yeah.
It is wonderful. One of the things that really people are starting to focus on is not just the excess food, but the food. So making sure, this is economic too, but making sure that people are being fed more plant-based than they were, but also making sure that meeting with the chef and talking to them about, you still need a protein. It's not just going to be a piece of broccoli on some noodles. You got to come up with some really good menus, and you can serve those to everybody and lower your carbon footprint, and water-wise foods, and serve local, regional food. I mean, who doesn't want to eat that when they're traveling to go to an event? So really what food it is and where it comes from. Is it local farms? It's important to people now, and put little signs out in front of them to tell them what farm, what farmer, what's in it, all those things to really sell the idea of local fresh food.
I love that. When I travel, obviously eating is my number one recreational activity, and you always want to know what the local cuisine is, what the specials are. So just another way to kind of highlight your event and make it a little more special. I came into this thinking that, we were going to be sort of selling people on, well, maybe there's not the options, maybe it costs a little bit more. But really, everything you're talking about is it's more efficient, it's more popular, it's all these things. So really, no excuse for anyone to kind of at least start taking some small steps toward more sustainable events.
Right, and take the ones that save money first, and really look like a champion in your organization. There are things that do cost more. If you want a lunch for 1,000 people, all with organic spinach, it's going to be more. But overall, your budget should be cost neutral. It shouldn't cost you more to do an event.
Can I just jump in there with that, with your food calculator? How can you just kind of explain what that food calculator is on your MeetGreen site?
Sure. It tells you, you plot in your meal, and it tells you what is the most the lowest carbon impact of your food. If you're having steak or if you're having a salad, what things are causing more distress to the planet and less. And then you can pick your meal based on that and serve a lower carbon, a lot of times lower water meal.
Very good.
I mean, I can't run carbon in my mind when I'm ordering, so it helps everybody with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some people at work who can, but
I'm sure.
me. Yep.
All right. Well, that was all the questions I had. If you want to take us out of here, Monica.
Sure. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Sustainable Solutions with Planet 8. And we want to thank Nancy J. Zavada from MeetGreen for all of her insight for business and organizations, big and small, to get the ball rolling on making our events greener. And we hope you've been inspired by the ideas that we've explored today. We encourage you to search for sustainable solutions that you can pursue so that you can be a good steward in your neck of the woods and beyond. Haley?
Thank you so much, Monica. A few reminders to our listeners on the way out. If you want to stay connected with us and stay informed about the latest sustainable solutions, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, and please share it with your friends. Hit that like button, and together we can make a bigger difference. Remember, change starts with awareness and action, so let's keep the conversation going. Feel free to reach out to us on social media, through our website. Share your thoughts, ideas, and stories with us. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, remember, it's a big world out there, but every small change counts. Together we can build a better, more sustainable future.
Thank you.